And welcome back to the channel. In today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio series, Autobot Drift and Baby Dinobots. As always, we'll take a quick look at the packaging, and then we'll take an extremely detailed look at the figure and his accessories themselves. Taking a quick look at the packaging, as you can see, we've got a fantastic CG render of Drift based on his appearance from the last night. Autobot Drift and Dinobots Hops, Dinobot Terry and Dinobots Sculpt, Transformers the last night. The other side of the packaging has yet again another really cool full rendered CG image of Drift from the last night. And as with all of these figures, the back of the packaging showcases the figure in both his robot mode as well as his vehicle mode. It also showcases some of the other figures in the assortment as well as a brief bio. Autobot Drift loses his inner calm and his balance when the mischievous baby Dinobots break his concentration, which was definitely the only memorable scene we saw of Drift in the last night movie, which is such a shame as his character is so interesting in the mythology. The other side of the packaging has yet again a closer up image of Drift's face, highlighting some of the really intricate details of his design, Studio Series Deluxe class, and that he is the figure number 36. Taking a quick look at the backdrop that this figure comes with, it is based on that kind of abandoned junkyard that we see in the beginning of the last night, where the Autobots are hiding in order to evade TRF. This is the same scene that we see Drift try to meditate in the beginning of the last night, where the baby Dinobots break his concentration, causing him to fall over. Unfortunately, due to the way that the figure is proportioned and the fact that the backdrop is in fact cardboard, you cannot really get this figure in a meditation-like pose. However, I imagine with some stability and some stange, this pose is perhaps achievable, and due to the figure having a great range of articulation in the head, you can get him looking beneath himself. And here we have Drift and the baby Dinobots out of their packaging, and as they all come packaged in their robot modes. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the last night Premiere Edition line, you'll definitely notice some extreme similarities between this release of Drift and the older release, which I will do a comparison with later. The only real difference is now that Drift comes with an extra brand new sword, he has a really detailed, awesome looking head sculpt, and the paint job that Hasbro and Takara have given him is almost identical to the on-screen appearance that we see of Drift in the movie. It is really amazing to see what different paint applications can do to a figure. At first glance, this figure almost looks as if though it is a completely brand new sculpt. Taking a look at the baby Dinobots first, here we have Dinobots Sculpt. Now, this is obviously supposed to be the baby version of Grimlock, and it definitely does evoke that appearance of a baby Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I am absolutely amazed with the amount of detail that Hasbro have been able to pack into these tiny little figures. There is some fantastic sculpted in detailing all the way throughout the figures, even on the underside of them, which is really cool. And they're not just figurines either, they do actually have some slight articulation. So here we've got Sculpt, he has got some articulation in the legs, as well as his jaw is able to open to a considerable length, as we do in fact see this baby Dinobot spawn fire in the movie. Taking a look at his head sculpt, as you can see, it has been miraculously done, and you've even got some detailing of teeth. I really like this kind of purple type turquoise paint that they've used for the eyes in order to make these little Dinobots appear to be alive. It really does add a sense of realism to the figures. The next of the baby Dinobots is Dinobot Terry. This is obviously supposed to be the baby of Swoop or of Strafe, and similarly to Sculpt, he does have some fantastic sculpted in detailing. I really do quite like the detailing that they've applied on the wings. It really does give it this very organic type of feel, making it look extremely realistic. The face is definitely my favourite part of this particular figure, as they've actually sculpted in some great detailing on the pupils themselves to really make them look extremely realistic, and I really do like the blue paint that they've applied over the top. The articulation that this figure has is that his jaw is able to move slightly open and closed. His arms are able to swivel forwards and backwards, as well as the legs are also able to pivot forwards and backwards also. So the limited articulation, but for a figure of this size, I do actually think it's impressively good, and Hasbro could have just made these figures statue pieces to just plonk on Drift themselves. The final of the baby Dinobots is of course the Dinobots Hops. Now, this is probably my favourite one just due to how cute he looks and the fact that he does definitely look like a Triceratops. I really do like his head sculpt, and he's been given this really awesome magenta-like green paint application for the eyes to really make them look very soulful and alive. I also like different detailing to bring out details such as his snout and his mouth and the horns that looked really well, and I do like this spinal section that they've applied to the top. All of these Dinobots have got some fantastic detailing on them. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this figure has jaw articulation, as I can't seem to get it to open, and I really don't want to break the figure. But unlike the others, he does have head articulation, so he is able to look left and right, and all of his arms are able to swivel forwards and backwards. So he is probably the most articulated of the Dinobots. However, I would have definitely have loved it if they could have implemented some jaw articulation, and it might still be in there. It's just that on my copy, he is extremely stiff. and I don't want to end up breaking the figure. So although they may have had a pointless role in the movie, I definitely am really glad to see these in action figure form, as they have been replicated extremely well, and they are actually surprisingly a lot better than I initially thought. I am extremely impressed with the articulation in some of them, especially the Triceratops version, and the paint applications as well as the detail on these particular pieces are extremely impressive. Now moving to the main attraction himself, here we have the Studio Series Drift, and my god, how an improvement in paint applications really helped to amplify a sculpt. This figure looks absolutely fantastic. I'm extremely impressed with the overall precision of the paint applications as well as how much paint this specific figure has. Now this is mainly just a repaint and a slight retool of the original version, of which I will do a comparison with in just a bit, but they really have gone all out and there really isn't any paint applications that I can really see drastically missing from this figure. Taking a look at details, as you can see, Drift has got an amazing looking head sculpt. It really does look very movie accurate to what we see in the Transformers The Last Night movie. It's definitely a stark improvement over the previous version, and they really have captured the appearance of Drift exceptionally well. Turning to this torso section, on the original release this was completely red. They've actually given us the accurate black paint application with very subtle red highlights. Considering that this particular figure's vehicle mode is completely black, it really was quite absurd to have the original version have a black alt mode and then a completely red robot. This version has corrected that and has given us a mostly black decoed paint job in the robot mode as well as in the vehicle mode. There is some really nice detailing here and all the paint applications seem to be applied exceptionally well. There doesn't seem to be any paint bleeds whatsoever, which is great to see. The shin armor's got the nice red paint application to define some of the lines. Even on this section here, it's been done really nicely. Turning down to the shins, there's also some nice silver paint application applied, which looks great, and then there's also some on the toes. Turning the figure around, as this is the exact same mold as the previous version, he does have quite a large backpack. However, I do think it does compress nicely. It would have been nice to have seen them implement some new engineering and perhaps have this folded in a lot more, but as it stands, I do definitely think that it is done quite well. Speaking of the original version, here is the original version of this mold compared to the brand new Studio Series version. As you can see, they do definitely look as if though they could be completely different figures and definitely not from the same mold. It's only when you really get close and you start to begin to compare these figures that the similarities definitely become present. As you can see, this The Last Night version had minimal paint application. It literally has barely no paint apps on its robot mode whatsoever. The Studio Series version has corrected that and it's just caked with paint application. Upon looking at the head sculpts, there is no doubt whatsoever that this new version is 10 times more accurate than this version. The head armor of this version seems to be completely done in a red plastic with the face section picked out in a gold paint, whereas this one definitely has a lot more variety. As you can see, the main head section is picked out in a black plastic with a really nice gold paint application. The beard is picked out in a black paint. The eyes have been done in an allspark blue. The top crest has been picked out in a red paint, and there is also some silver detailing right in the center of Drift's crest. So this version is just so much more accurate than this original version. I definitely know which version I'll be storing away, and it is definitely this one. Now, as this figure is exactly the same as the original version, the articulation is also the same besides the head. Due to the new head, he does have a greater range of articulation. You can get the head tilted side to side as well as up and down. It can also swivel left and right. The arms are able to do the full 360-degree spin. They can also hinge out to the sides. This armor section is also able to be lifted out to allow for a greater range of motion. The elbows have got a swivel joint, however it is extremely stiff. The elbows are on slight ratchet joints, which is great to see. And due to transformation, the hand can tilt inwards, however it cannot tilt down, which is a shame, as considering Drift is a sword-wielding Autobot, it would have been good to see him tilt the sword in a way similar to Cogman. He doesn't have any waist articulation, however that was not apparent on the original version. The legs can kick forwards that far, as well as back that far, and out to the sides that far. He does have fire rotation joint there, which can rotate to a fair degree. He does have a 90-degree bend at the knee, and due to transformation, the feet can pivot forwards and backwards. So overall for articulation, it is fairly basic for a deluxe class figure. However, with some time and patience, I definitely do think you can get this figure performing a variety of different poses. Now turning to Drift swords, this is the brand new sword that wasn't a carryover from the original release, and it looks really well done. It's definitely extremely accurate to the sword that we see Drift balancing on in the Last Night movie, and I do believe we also see this particular sword in the Age of Extinction movie. Unlike the other swords, it is a completely hard plastic to the point where I believe if you applied enough pressure, you could probably snap this. So that is definitely something to be cautious of. They have given it some really nice detailing. I particularly like the detail of this kind of wrap they've done around the handle section, and some of the nubs have been picked out in a gold paint. It really does look well done. Quite surprisingly, it does have a peg, so it does lead me to believe that there is weapon storage in either vehicle mode or robot mode. However, the instructions do not mention either, and I haven't yet found any particular storage that you can put this particular sword in. The hilt of the sword does just plug into Drift's hand, just like so. It can be quite difficult to get in as it is a harder plastic, but it does sit in there extremely securely, and I do think he looks really awesome with this particular sword. The next weapons that he comes with are previously released weapons. He comes with 2 katanas and 2 longer blades. These are exactly the same as the previous release, besides the difference in the plastic colour. Personally, I am quite glad that they have included this, as similarly with Hound, Drift does seem to be a sword wielding expert, so it is great that he has a variety of different swords. However, these are made of a lot more bendier, pliable type of plastic when compared to the newer sword, which I guess is good in some ways, as if you are to store these on the figure's back, you're not going to have any problems in scraping the paint off when pulling them out of the back or sawing them in. And talking of storage, the smaller katanas do have a place on the back. Pulling this section down, as you can see, we do have some quite nice sculpted in detailing on the back section itself, but this will expose 2 ports that you can just plug the katana sword in. And then on the back section here, there are these 2 holes on either side that you can take these and store them in. However, on my copy, they're extremely loose, so they tend to only really sit in there due to friction, but it really doesn't take much to knock them out whatsoever. However, nevertheless, I am glad that there is weapon storage implemented on the figure. And due to the fact that I'm probably just going to display this piece, it really doesn't matter whether or not they fall out or not. So overall, for robot mode, this figure is definitely a supreme improvement over the previous version. This is probably the most accurate representation we've ever had of a Drift figure, and considering that this is literally just a repaint slash retool of the older version, it can at first be extremely hard to believe that this is literally just a repaint, but nevertheless it is, and I definitely think it is the best repaint that Hasbro have done in a very long time. Now, turning to transformation on this particular figure, it is identical to the previous version. So to begin with, you're going to want to remove all of Drift's swords, and you're going to begin with the legs. Take the feet and just collapse those down just like so, and then these sections, which will probably be displayed backwards, you're going to want to pull those forwards, and then they will just tab together just like so. What you can then do is take the arms and straighten those out, and then these sections here are going to clip inwards, and the hands will kind of sit in an indented situation into the thigh. So lift this section up and slide the hand into that slot just like so, making sure that this section here is aligned. What we can then do is turn the figure up and rotate this bonnet section upwards and pull it forwards. Now, similarly to what we saw in robot mode, in order to store the weapons in vehicle mode, these 2 ports are literally the ports you're going to want to plug the swords in. These smaller katanas will just fit in there just like so, and you're going to want to make sure that they are as close to the middle as they possibly can be, so that they do not obstruct the transformation. You're going to want to go for a configuration similar to this. We're then going to want to straighten the hood out, and then take this section here and bring this forwards. Just snap that down all the way. What we can then do is take this and clip it into place just like so. Take these sections here and spray those outwards. This tab here will plug into this slot here, so just line that up and snap that into place. Repeat the same process on this side. Line that up and snap that into place. Pull the head down slightly now, as you're going to take this bumper section, and these 2 tabs here will plug into 2 slots here. So just take this and snap that into place, making sure that everything is aligned up properly. Turn the figure to the underside, which will expose 2 ports that you can take these larger blades and just plug those into just like so. As I stated, I haven't as of yet found any form of weapon storage for the larger katana sword. However, you're probably just going to want to leave that off to the side. And then we have Drift completed and fully transformed into his Mercedes AMG Alt Mode. Now, once again, this is a fantastic representation of how Drift appeared in the Last Night movie. I really do like how they've recaptured the look of the Mercedes that Drift obtained in the Last Night exceptionally well. And it is, once again, an improvement over the original version. Bringing that original version in, as you can see, one of the main differences is that we no longer have that ghastly, awfully placed Autobot insignia. It is now removed in order to aid movie accuracy. They have removed the bluish type of paint they use for the headlights and given us a more accurate looking silver paint. The detailing for the front bumper sections or the grille is very similar. Turning the figures to the side, as you can see, they have now actually sculpted in the wheel in a complete black plastic and added a red rim around the trim, whereas on the original version it was sculpted in a red plastic and the tyres were just picked out in a black paint. I definitely do prefer the look on the brand new Studio Series version, as this version definitely looked very toy-like. Turning the figures around, there is no additional paint application to the rear section, which is something that I would have perhaps liked. Perhaps a red paint on the rear lights would have made this figure stand out even more from the original version, but nevertheless there is enough differences in this figure in robot mode as well as vehicle mode to warrant another purchase. So there you have it. That is my review for the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Drift. Personally, if you're happy with the original version, then this perhaps isn't necessarily a release that you want to pick up, as besides a different paint application, a new head and a new sword, it is near enough exactly the same as the previous version. However, you do get a much more accurate looking robot mode due to the added paint applications. The newer head sculpt is far superior over the older version, and I really do like the new sword. The baby Dinobots are also quite a nice inclusion, as without this release I don't ever think we would have ever seen them in plastic form, and they are actually surprisingly quite fun and extremely detailed, so won't look too out of place in your collection. Personally, I do think this is definitely a nice set to pick up. However, I really wouldn't pay any more than retail price. I do believe that this is an online exclusive. Initially it was revealed to be an Entertainment Earth exclusive, I believe. However, various other online retailers appear to have acquired it, so I'm going to go with that it is just an online retail exclusive and will never actually hit retail itself. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please let me know down in the comment section below, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.